What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved icons walks onto a talk show expecting respect, but instead gets blindsided by a host who seems more interested in stirring up controversy than having a genuine conversation? Well, you're about to find out exactly what went down when Cher sat across from Joy Behar on The View, and trust me, this is not the kind of interview anyone saw coming. Before we dive into this explosive encounter, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below with your thoughts, because this story is going to leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about daytime television drama. The morning started like any other at the View studio in Manhattan. Cher had arrived early, her signature confidence radiating as she settled into the green room. She was there to promote her latest project, expecting the usual friendly banter that comes with decades of entertainment industry relationships. What she didn't expect was Joy Behar's decision to turn what should have been a celebratory interview into something far more confrontational. As the cameras rolled and the show's familiar theme music faded, Whoopi Goldberg began the introductions with her usual warmth. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a true legend with us today. She's sold over 100 million records worldwide, won an Academy Award, a Grammy, an Emmy, and she's been entertaining us for more than 5 decades. Please welcome the incomparable Cher. The audience erupted in applause as Cher gracefully took her seat at the table, flashing that $1,000,000 smile that had captivated audiences since the 1960 seconds. She was dressed elegantly in a flowing black ensemble, her silver hair styled perfectly, looking every bit the icon she had always been. "Thank you so much for having me," Cher said warmly, her voice carrying that distinctive tone that fans had come to love. "I'm always happy to be here with you ladies." Whoopi beamed back at her. "We're thrilled to have you. Now, you're here to talk about your upcoming farewell tour, which I have to say, has been a long time coming." Cher laughed, that genuine laugh that made her seem both larger than life and completely down to earth. "Well, I've been saying farewell for about 20 years now, so people probably don't believe me anymore. But this time, I really mean it." The conversation flowed naturally as they discussed her tour plans, her legendary career, and her thoughts on the current state of the music industry. Sarah Haynes chimed in with questions about her fitness routine, while Sunny Hostin asked about her advocacy work. Everything was going smoothly, the kind of interview that fans tune in to see, when Joy Behar decided to shift the entire tone of the conversation. Cher," Joy began, her voice taking on that particular edge that regular viewers of The View had come to recognize as a warning sign. "I have to ask you about something that's been bothering me for years." Cher's eyebrows raised slightly, but her smile remained in place. "Oh, okay. What's that?" Joy leaned forward, her expression becoming more serious. "Don't you think it's a little hypocritical for someone like you, who's had so much plastic surgery, to be talking about authenticity and being true to yourself?" The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The other hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats, clearly not expecting Joy to go there. The audience fell silent, and you could practically feel the temperature in the studio drop several degrees. Cher's smile faltered for just a moment before she composed herself. "I'm sorry, what did you just say to me?" Joy doubled down, apparently oblivious to the growing tension. "I mean, come on, we all know you've had work done, a lot of work. And yet you're always talking about self-acceptance and loving yourself as you are? Isn't that sending mixed messages to your fans?" The other hosts looked mortified. Whoopi tried to intervene. "Joy, I don't think we need to go there." But Joy waved her off. Cher straightened in her chair, her voice becoming cooler. "First of all, Joy, what I choose to do with my body is my business. Second of all, I've never hidden the fact that I've had cosmetic procedures. I've been open about it for decades." "But don't you see the contradiction?" Joy pressed on, her voice becoming more aggressive. "You're telling young women to love themselves while you're constantly changing your appearance. It's like you can't practice what you preach." The tension in the studio was now palpable. Cher's famous composure was being tested in a way that few had dared to challenge before. Her voice remained steady, but there was steel beneath the silk. "Joy, I think you're confusing self-acceptance with self-improvement," Cher replied, her words carefully measured. "I've never told anyone they shouldn't make changes if it makes them feel better about themselves. What I've always said is that you should love yourself enough to make choices that are right for you, not for other people." Joy wasn't backing down. But you're a role model. You have responsibilities to your fans. When you get surgery after surgery, you're setting an impossible standard. Impossible standard? Cher's voice rose slightly. Joy, I'm 77 years old, and I look fantastic because I take care of myself. That includes eating right, exercising, and yes, having some work done when I feel like it. I don't owe anyone an explanation for my personal choices. The other hosts were exchanging glances, clearly uncomfortable with where this was heading. Sarah Haynes attempted to lighten the mood. Can we maybe talk about the tour again? But Joy wasn't finished. I just think it's irresponsible, Cher. You have young fans who look up to you, and when they see you constantly altering your appearance, it sends the message that natural aging isn't acceptable. Cher's patience was wearing thin, and you could see it in her eyes. Joy, let me ask you something. When did you decide it was your job to police how other women choose to live their lives? I'm not policing anyone, Joy shot back. I'm asking legitimate questions that I think viewers want answered. No, Cher said firmly. You're being judgmental, and frankly, a little cruel. I came here to talk about my tour and my career, not to be lectured about my personal choices by someone who clearly has their own issues with aging and appearance. Joy's face reddened. My own issues? What's that supposed to mean? Cher looked directly at Joy, no longer hiding her growing irritation. It means that maybe you should examine why you're so bothered by what other women do with their bodies before you start pointing fingers. The studio audience was dead silent now, watching what was clearly becoming more than just a disagreement. This was turning into a full-blown confrontation, and Joy Behar seemed determined to push it even further. Whoopi tried once more to regain control of the situation. Ladies, let's take a step back here, and maybe focus on something more positive. But Joy was clearly feeling defensive now, and instead of backing down, she decided to escalate. You know what, Cher? I think you're deflecting. You don't want to answer the real questions because you know I'm right. Cher's eyes flashed with anger. The real questions? Joy. The only real question here is why you invited me on your show just to ambush me with your personal judgments. It's not an ambush, Joy insisted, her voice getting louder. It's called journalism. Some of us actually ask the hard questions, instead of just throwing softball interviews. The comment was clearly a dig at the other hosts, and you could see Sarah and Sunny exchanging uncomfortable glances. Whoopi's expression had gone from diplomatic to distinctly annoyed. Cher leaned back in her chair, studying Joy with a look that could freeze water. Journalism? Is that what you call this? Because from where I'm sitting, this feels more like a middle school cafeteria, with you playing the mean girl who tears other people down to make herself feel better. The audience gasped audibly. Joy's mouth fell open, clearly not expecting Cher to come back at her so directly. Excuse me? Joy sputtered. You heard me, Cher continued, her voice gaining strength. I've been in this business for over 50 years, Joy. I've been interviewed by everyone from Barbara Walters to Oprah to Anderson Cooper. Real journalists know how to ask tough questions with respect and professionalism. What you're doing is just mean-spirited. Joy's face was now bright red. I am a professional journalist. I've been doing this longer than some people at this table have been alive. Then act like it, Cher shot back without missing a beat. Because right now you're acting like someone who's bitter and taking it out on a guest who came here in good faith. Sarah Haynes looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Sunny Hostin was staring at her hands, clearly wishing she was anywhere else. Even Whoopi, who had seen plenty of heated moments on The View over the years, seemed taken aback by how quickly this had spiraled out of control. Joy wasn't finished, though. You know what your problem is, Cher? You're so used to people kissing your feet and telling you what you want to hear that you can't handle someone asking you real questions. Real questions? Cher's voice dripped with incredulity. Joy. Asking someone about their personal medical choices in a hostile way isn't journalism. It's gossip. And frankly, it's none of your business. It becomes my business when you're influencing millions of people, Joy fired back. When you present this image of eternal youth and perfection, you're contributing to the problem. Cher stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. The action was so unexpected that everyone in the studio froze. What problem, Joy? The problem of women wanting to feel good about themselves? The problem of women making their own choices about their own bodies? Joy also stood up, not wanting to be towered over. The problem of unrealistic beauty standards that make normal women feel inadequate. And who made you the spokesperson for normal women? Cher demanded, her voice echoing through the studio. Did it ever occur to you that maybe, just maybe, some women are inspired by seeing other women live their lives on their own terms? The camera operators were having a field day capturing every moment of this unprecedented confrontation. The production staff in the control room were probably torn between stopping the segment and letting this television gold continue to unfold. Joy's voice became shrill. I'm trying to have an honest conversation about the pressures women face in this society. No, you're not, Cher said firmly. You're trying to tear me down because something about me bothers you. And you're using feminism as an excuse to be cruel. I am not being cruel, Joy protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Really? Cher raised an eyebrow. Then let me ask you something, Joy. When was the last time you attacked a male guest about his appearance? When was the last time you questioned whether Robert De Niro's hair plugs were setting a bad example for young men? Or whether George Clooney's perfect teeth were creating unrealistic standards? Joy opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Cher continued, her voice gaining momentum. I'll tell you when. Never. Because you reserve this kind of judgment for women. You tear down other women while hiding behind the pretense of concern. That's not true, Joy said weakly. Isn't it? Cher challenged. Tell me, Joy. What plastic surgery have you had done? The question hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Joy's face went white, then red again. That's personal, Joy stammered. Exactly, Cher said triumphantly. It's personal, just like my choices are personal. But somehow you think you have the right to interrogate me about mine while keeping yours private. Whoopi finally found her voice. Okay, I think we need to take a commercial break. But Cher wasn't finished. No, Whoopi, I think Joy wants to have this conversation. Don't you, Joy? You want to talk about authenticity and setting examples? Let's talk about the example you're setting right now. Joy looked around the table desperately, clearly realizing she had bitten off more than she could chew. I think you're overreacting, Cher. Am I? Cher's voice was deadly calm now. Joy, in the past 10 minutes, you've questioned my integrity, my authenticity, my responsibility to my fans, and my impact on society. All because I've been honest about having some cosmetic procedures. And you think I'm overreacting? The other hosts were watching this exchange like spectators at a tennis match, their heads turning back and forth between the two women. Joy tried a different tactic. Look, I'm sorry if you feel attacked, but I was just trying to start a conversation about beauty standards in Hollywood. By attacking me personally? Cher asked. By calling me a hypocrite on national television? That's your idea of starting a conversation? I never called you a hypocrite, Joy protested. Cher stared at her incredulously. You literally asked me if I thought it was hypocritical for me to talk about authenticity while having plastic surgery. Those were your exact words. Joy realized she was trapped. I was asking a question. You were making an accusation disguised as a question. Cher corrected. And now you're trying to backtrack because you've realized how bad this looks. The tension in the studio had reached a breaking point. You could see the production staff moving around frantically behind the cameras, clearly unsure whether to cut to commercial or let this historic confrontation continue to play out live on national television. Whoopi made one final attempt to salvage the situation. Ladies, I really think we should take a break and cool down. But Joy, perhaps realizing that her credibility was on the line, made the fatal decision to double down one last time. You know what, Cher? Maybe the real issue here is that you can't handle being questioned by someone who isn't intimidated by your celebrity status. The words hit the studio like a lightning bolt. Even the camera operators stopped moving. Sarah Haynes audibly gasped. Sunny Hostin's eyes went wide. And Cher, the woman who had faced down decades of critics, industry sexism, and public scrutiny with grace and dignity, finally reached her breaking point. Intimidated? Cher's voice was dangerously quiet now. Joy, let me tell you something. I've been questioned by real journalists, tough interviewers, and actual critics my entire career. Not one of them ever felt the need to be disrespectful or cruel to make their point. Joy tried to interrupt. I wasn't being. I'm talking, Cher said firmly, and Joy actually took a step back. You want to know what intimidates me? Nothing. Certainly not someone who hides behind a talk show desk to tear down other women because she's unhappy with her own life. The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Cher continued, her voice gaining power. You know what's really sad, Joy? You had a chance today to have a real conversation with someone who's lived through 5 decades of this industry. You could have asked me about breaking barriers, about surviving in a business that discards women the moment they show their age, about what it's really like to reinvent yourself again and again. Joy's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Instead, Cher went on, you chose to focus on the most superficial, gossipy, mean-spirited angle you could find, and then you had the audacity to call it journalism. Whoopi tried one more time. Cher, maybe we can. Cher held up a hand. No, Whoopi, I'm not finished. Because Joy here thinks she's intimidated by my celebrity status. But the truth is, she's intimidated by something much more basic than that. What's that supposed to mean? Joy asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Cher looked directly at Joy, and when she spoke, her words carried the weight of decades of experience and wisdom. You're intimidated by a woman who's comfortable with herself. You're intimidated by someone who makes choices based on what makes her happy, not what other people think she should do. You're intimidated by the idea that a woman can be 77 years old and still feel beautiful, still feel powerful, still feel relevant. Joy's face had gone completely pale. That's not true, isn't it? Cher challenged. Because from where I'm standing, this whole attack felt less like journalism and more like projection. Like you're angry at me for something you wish you could do for yourself. The other hosts were watching this exchange with a mixture of fascination and horror. This had gone far beyond a simple disagreement. This was a masterclass in how to handle a bully, and Joy Behar was being systematically dismantled on live television. Joy made one last desperate attempt to regain control. I think you're being dramatic, Cher. This is just a talk show conversation. Cher laughed, but there was no humor in it. Dramatic? Joy, you just spent 15 minutes attacking me personally, questioning my integrity, and suggesting that I'm harmful to women everywhere, and I'm being dramatic? She started walking around the table, her movements deliberate and controlled. You know what's dramatic? A grown woman who makes her living talking on television being unable to conduct a simple interview without resorting to personal attacks. Joy looked around desperately for support from the other hosts, but they were all pointedly avoiding eye contact. Cher stopped directly in front of Joy's chair. I came here today to talk about my farewell tour, to share some stories with your audience, to have a nice conversation. Instead, I've been subjected to what can only be described as a character assassination attempt by someone who clearly has her own issues to work through. I don't have issues, Joy protested weakly. Everyone has issues, Joy, Cher said, her voice softening slightly. The difference is, most people don't take them out on their guests on national television. Whoopi finally found an opening. Cher, I want to apologize on behalf of the show. But Cher was already reaching for her purse. You know what, Whoopi? You don't need to apologize. You and the other ladies have been lovely. But I think it's pretty clear that I'm not welcome here, as long as she, Cher pointed at Joy, thinks this kind of behavior is acceptable. Joy made one final, desperate attempt. Cher, you're overreacting to a simple question. Cher turned to look at Joy one last time, and when she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had earned the right to speak her mind. Joy. That wasn't a simple question. That was an ambush. That was mean girl behavior disguised as journalism, and frankly it says a lot more about you than it does about me. She slung her purse over her shoulder with the same grace she'd shown when she first walked onto the set. I've spent 50 years in show business dealing with critics, skeptics, and people who thought they knew better than I did about my own life. but I've never not once had someone invite me onto their show just to tear me down for their own entertainment. Joy opened her mouth to respond, but Cher cut her off with a look. I'm done here, Cher announced, her voice carrying clearly through the stunned studio. Whoopee, Sarah, Sunny, it was lovely meeting you. I hope we can do this again sometime under better circumstances. She started walking toward the exit, her head held high, every inch the icon she'd always been. The camera followed her movement, capturing what would become one of the most talked-about moments in daytime television history. Joy, perhaps realizing the magnitude of what had just happened, made one final desperate call. Cher. Wait. Don't leave like this. Cher paused at the edge of the set and turned back one last time. Like what, Joy? With my dignity intact? With my self-respect? Yeah, I think I will leave like this. And with that, one of the most legendary entertainers of all time walked off the View set, leaving behind a stunned studio audience, a mortified production crew, and Joy Behar sitting alone with the realization that she had just made one of the biggest mistakes of her television career. The cameras kept rolling as Whoopi tried to recover, as Sarah and Sunny sat in shocked silence, and as Joy finally understood that sometimes, when you try to tear down an icon, you end up destroying yourself instead. So there you have it, the incredible confrontation that nobody saw coming. What did you think about how Cher handled Joy's attacks? Was she right to walk off, or should she have stayed and tried to work things out? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories that you won't hear anywhere else. Which celebrity do you think would handle a situation like this even better than Cher did?